Hi, I'm Liselle Sambury and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things writing, traditional publishing, and a little bit of reading. And this is a bit of a different video. So what this is it's actually a compilation of a video series that I've been doing on TikTok, where every day that I work on it, I'm basically documenting how the drafting process goes for writing the second book in my new YA Dark Academia fantasy series, whose first book, A Mastery of Monsters, comes out in summer of 2025. And so every day I work on the book, I do one of these updates and I post it on TikTok. And so I created this compilation sort of video series here on YouTube to basically batch together each week's video into one YouTube video, just because the videos are kind of like, they're too long for YouTube Shorts, but they're also a little too short for me to want to post them every day on YouTube. And so for those of you that like my YouTube channel and you aren't really fans of TikTok, that's basically what these videos are. It's just all the videos for that week packed into one, so that you can watch this every week and you can kind of see the whole kind of videos for the week. I am still going to be doing my monthly writing vlogs, so you'll still see those, and those really include like other facets of my life and like b-roll and that sort of thing, whereas these are like very pointed, basically only about drafting this specific book. So without further ado, I will let you enjoy the compilation, and you may notice that this intro is the same for every compilation video. That's because I just wanted to do one intro that I can use for all of the compilation videos going forward. And of course, I will also put them in a playlist, which I have linked down below, so that as the series goes on, if you missed anything and there's a few videos, you can just watch the whole playlist of the compilation. We are actually today exactly 9 months away from the release of A Mastery of Monsters, so still not for a while, but yeah, so today is my first day back from working after the long weekend, which went by way too quickly for my speed. But I'm back here, and I actually had a little bit less writing to do today, just because last time I wrote, I ended up splitting up chapters, and then I realized I was like half writing another chapter, and I was like, let me just leave it until the next day. So this is the next day in which I'm actually getting to do it. So I had kind of like twofold, like they are observing a fight between two competitors, or rather 4 competitors, because everybody competes in partnerships. So they're watching that fight, and then in the second scene they go and do some investigation stuff that involves, you know, just a little bit of breaking and entering, but like that's kind of par for the course. I feel like when you're writing like YA and there's investigation, there's just gonna be breaking and entering, like that's just part of it. But anyway, so I finished off that first fight scene thing, which I did have a fun time doing, and it was kind of a balance, like, because it's kind of like a higher level of competitor than like the main character is at. So like this is her first time seeing you know, people who are in the same league as her doing a fight, but it's like clear that their skill levels are so different, and so I think I missed a little bit kind of like getting more of her internal reaction of like realizing how different her skill level is. I think that's something I'm gonna have to get in for edits, but that's a big part of it. Like they're just like they're at this like much higher skill level than she has reached, and those are people that she may potentially have to fight later on, so she kind of has to get up to that level at some point. And then the investigation was good. I feel like it's a fun time for me because I'm really, you know, building on the building blocks of like this whole mystery that I've set up, which is like very involved, and quite honestly is like a mystery that was already in some ways going on in the first book, and I'm kind of continuing / adding different levels to it in this kind of second book, so it can kind of like, this is the book in which is gonna like reach its conclusion and kind of reach ahead. And so there's kind of like what the main character is investigating, and then there's like another layer. So yeah, I'm trying to put that together. I don't know how well it's going to come out in the end, but I am doing my best to make something happen within this period of time. So that's kind of all I did today. I do have a little quote here. I don't know if it's the best, but like, you know, it's not bad. I don't mind sharing it. So the quote is, "Every time I think I'm making progress finding out what happened to them, I find myself turned around with no idea how I got there. A maze where every turn does nothing but make me more lost than I was before." And I did do a little edit there. I said them. It's there's a character name, but it's a spoiler thing. So I did a little edit. But yeah, so we're back on the writing train. I am still feeling a little bit like I don't want to do anything, but I'm doing it and it's happening. This week I also have some extra work, which I think is why it's been feeling a little bit more difficult to get everything done. I'm actually working on editing the last proof of A Mastery of Monsters, which is, you know, fun to be doing them tandem, but it's doubling up the work for the day, and I think that's also leading to more fatigue, but I should be done that this week. And then my tentative plan for next week is to start writing 2 chapters a day instead of 1. I had flirted with the idea of doing this before, and then I had avoided it, but I kind of like I don't want to be writing the book for this long, and so I kind of want to see what I can manage, you know, doing a little double duty and seeing how that works for me. So, but that won't be until next week. So I will see you tomorrow. This is also where I wear various things on my head to hide the fact that my hair is messy, and also don't do anything about the fact that my hair is messy because I don't want to. So anyway, today, my gosh, this was a chaotic writing day for me. It was one of those days, because when you write a first draft, or at least when I write a first draft, I'm aware that a lot of what I'm outputting is trash. That it is something I will need to build upon over several drafts to make not trash. And so I just accept that sometimes I write things and it's just bad. And I know it's bad, but I just need to get something down on the page, and everything else can be fixed later. For example, right now, I realize that there's a bit of a plot hole in that in the first book, I said, if you do X, this thing happens. And in this entire second book, they've been doing X, and that thing has not been happening. And so I've just kind of accepted that I will need to write it in and edit it at a later point. So, you know, those are the sorts of things that for me come along with writing a first draft. In this case of today, I feel like in my other chapters, I've been doing pretty good. Like, there's been some things where I was like, oh, this could be better, but generally okay. And today was just a full trash day. I was like, I don't think any of this is good. So I had to write a chapter today. So they're doing a bit of a closing ceremony because this section of the competition is over. So they're doing a little bit of a closing ceremony party, like an official party. And then there's also like an after party. Again, originally this was supposed to be one party. I realized that, you know, an official society would probably not be doing a club night. And so I had to make it 2 scenes to do that after party at the club, which I needed to do for romantic reasons. So that needed to happen. So I now already split one chapter into 2 separate scenes. And of course, I didn't have enough words to do that. And so what happened is that both the chapters just became endless dialogue. There's barely any description of any kind. It's just a ton of dialogue. And I realized that several conversations had to take place, and so I was just like ending conversations. There was no wrap up of the conversation. She'd be talking to one person, they'd end their conversation, and then she'd just turn, go away, and start talking to some other person because they have to have a conversation. Just no flow whatsoever between any of the scenes. Also, the endings of the chapters just ended, or the ends of the scenes, because I just needed to move on to the next scene. So, you know, most of the time in all the previous chapters, I try and wrap it up in a significant sort of way, so it feels like the chapter is complete. This feels like scenes are ending in the middle of conversations. Just because I just need it to end. So yeah, I feel like this is the point. We're really, how many chapters away? Like 10 chapters away from the midpoint. So still quite a bit to go. I guess, you know, what am I at? Like 38,000 words. So really it's supposed to be like 10,000 words to go, but of course that's not going to happen. The book is already too long. So it's going to be like another 16,000 words to go. And I feel like this is the point in time in which quality of the work starts to dip down. And just kind of it gets worse. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, but today, yeah, nothing was really good. I have no quote because again, nothing was really good. And this was one of those writing days where I was like, you know, I just accept that it's trash and just move on. And today I did something different than I've been doing, which is instead of adding a chapter, I actually was able to combine 2 chapters into one. So I actually cut down a chapter, which was great. So essentially, like, what it was supposed to be is I was supposed to write a chapter today where basically like they have like a student mentor, I would say, and they were supposed to have a meeting with her, and then there's supposed to be a separate scene in which 2 characters kind of break off and they like do their own thing. And for some reason I thought those would be like 2 full chapters, but I was pretty much nearing the end of like the mentor conversation scene, and it was like, I don't know, it was like 1,200 words, and I was like, I can still squeak in that other scene and I can just make the 2 chapters into one. So that's what I just decided to do, and I feel like that worked out really well because it didn't need like a lot of time. Like basically the 2 characters like go to one character's apartment and they like play a game and they have a conversation about some things, and it's supposed to be like a moment for those characters like to increase like their relationship with each other. And so I was able to do that, and that was fine. And so yeah, I was able to kind of cut down a little bit, which was good. And I liked the way that this chapter went. They are still all super dialogue heavy, like so dialogue heavy. And I don't know what there really needs to be, I think, a little bit more like internally from the main character. And like I feel like all my stories tend to be dialogue heavy because I have more of a focus on character than like description. I also don't really like description. I have that thing where it's very difficult for me to picture things in my head, which is to say, and so when I write, it's very easy for me to ignore those things because when I read, I ignore those things. Basically, so like they enter a space and to me they're just floating in the air. I can't even really see faces or anything like that, just a bunch of characters floating in the air. And so it's really like I usually end up going back in an edit and like forcing myself to add in more description and things like that. And so basically when I do these first drafts, what I try to do is like I force myself to establish the scene right in the very beginning of the chapter, and then I usually just like it just becomes a giant swath of dialogue. So that wasn't any different, but it was kind of good because the main character August in this scene is kind of being confronted about the journey that she's going on, which is, you know, she's very obsessed with finding out kind of who murdered this person, but she's also very obsessed with like acquiring power and like the insulation that power can give you, or at least the kind of feeling that power can insulate you from being hurt, instead of kind of addressing the hurt directly. And so one of the characters in the scene is basically like, I think you should, basically saying like, I think you should address the kind of root cause of what's going on here. And of course the main character is not down for that. She has no interest in that. She feels that there is nothing wrong. She is just, you know, focused on this investigation and that's it. There's no deeper whatever, and so that's kind of her status on it. So it was like a good moment for her to have that kind of thing chipped away from her. There also is like a hint of like maybe these characters might be betraying you in some way, which I thought was really fun. Anyway, I have a quote. It's I think it could use some finessing, but I'm generally happy with it. So the quote is, "There's a reason the rebellion happened in the first place. You can't oppress people and not expect backlash. But of course, when it happens, they act like it came out of nowhere and you get played off like the villains. How dare you fight for your rights, you know? I'm sure you know." So that's the quote for the day, and I will see you tomorrow. And I'm very excited that it's Friday because I would love the break. But yeah, today I did another chapter from that other POV. So we have August, who is the main character, and most of the book is her. But then we have a new mystery POV that comes into the second book. Who is another character, and so I was doing her POV today. She goes to her love interest's birthday party, and so basically it's you know what, in the past I didn't like to write down character birthdays and stuff like that because honestly I was just too lazy to keep track of that stuff. I didn't really enjoy it and so I never mentioned it. But because this book takes place like over the course, or this series takes place over the course of like a year and a half, I kind of can't get around it because people are gonna have birthdays. So the first book has a birthday scene, and this book also has a birthday scene, and I'm sure the third book will probably also have a birthday scene. But anyway, so it's her birthday, so they're doing this whole celebration thing. And so this was kind of like a good dynamic for like getting this POV character to like get her a gift and like do that whole back and forth thing. They do briefly talk about some political stuff and their investigation that they're doing, because there's two investigations. So there's an investigation that the main character August is doing, and there's an investigation that this POV character is doing, and there's also some like crossover between the two investigations. So they both kind of ladder up to each other in a way. So they talked a little bit about that one, and they're basically kind of now planning. They've kind of narrowed down on a location, and so they're going to plan to go to that location and try and do some investigation things. So this was just like a conversation to basically establish that they think something is kind of maybe hidden at this location. And then this character and her love interest get to have a bit of a conversation about both of the things that are kind of going on in their character arc. The thing about the love interest character though, I think that I really need to adjust her character arc because I kind of feel like it's off. So when I was reading through my manuscript, my proof pages for Mastery of Monsters, which is the first book, I started to feel like maybe the arc in this book just like isn't working, or it's not quite right, or it's not quite proper. And so I do think that I'm going to need to edit that at some point, because it's just kind of not working. It's just not right. Like I planned something out, and then when I started doing it, it just wasn't working. It wasn't working because I don't think that that's how her character would evolve. And so I want her to struggle with something, but I don't think that this makes sense as a thing for her to struggle with. And so I need to do something about that, but I can't do it now. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I might just discover it as I'm writing, or I might just have to wait all the way until I'm editing the book to do that. But the POV character, I think her arc is still very on point, which is good. And this was a chance for like the love interest to kind of help her out a little bit with the dilemma that she's having, because she's trying to use a certain weapon and it has different kind of tiers. And like part of her whole thing is that she's trying to figure out how to get it to work. And so she got some kind of advice from the love interest that hopefully will help her out when she has to use it. And she will have to use it pretty soon. And that's really it for today. I do have a line. It's a line this time. And it is, there's a difference between pulling back because you need space to heal and abandoning someone. So that's the quote for today, and I will see you on Monday.